Okay, imagine for a second you've been given a job. Build a house. But not just any house. A house for a god. I mean, where do you even start? What would that blueprint look like? Well, that's what we're going to do today. We're going on an architectural tour. But our guide isn't some fancy CAD software. Nope. Our guide is an ancient text that lays out Solomon's legendary temple, piece by tiny piece, from the ground up. That's really the big question, isn't it? It's the question that fueled one of the most ambitious building projects in all of history. See, this wasn't just a building. It was a massive statement, literally etched in stone and gold. It was an attempt to make a place on earth that was actually worthy of the divine. So what did that look like? Let's dive in. So before you can even think about laying a single stone, the location has to be perfect, right? And in this story, the ground itself, wow, it's just steeped in history and spiritual meaning. We're talking about a foundation that wasn't just physical, it was legendary. And what's so cool is how specific the text is. It's not just some vague once upon a time. The story kicks off with a divine vision to King David. That vision leads him to pick a very, very particular piece of land, a threshing floor of all things. And get this, we're even given a precise start date for the build. The second day of the second month in the fourth year of Solomon's reign. This isn't trying to be a fuzzy myth. It's grounded in details that make it feel like a real historical record. So there we have it. The location is set. Jerusalem, specifically Mount Moriah. This was the exact spot that David chose, right where that vision happened. Everything, absolutely everything that comes next is built on this super sacred, historically important piece of ground. All right, let's get to the blueprint. We've got our spot, so what about the building itself? The first thing you've got to understand is just the sheer scale of this ambition. It's huge. So the text lays out the foundation's dimensions, 60 cubits long by 20 cubits wide. Now, a cubit, it's an old school measurement, basically the length from your elbow to your fingertips. So we're talking about a footprint that's roughly 90 feet long. And right out front, you've got this massive portico, a porch, that's soaring 20 cubits, or about 30 feet into the air. I mean, this thing was built to impress you from the second you laid eyes on it. But you know, as big and impressive as the outside was, that's not the real story. The truly breathtaking part, the real jaw-dropper, was hidden from view. The real marvel was what they put inside. So what was inside? Well, in a word, gold. An absolutely staggering, almost unimaginable amount of it. We're about to see how every single detail in there was designed to scream more than just wealth. It was meant to give off this kind of divine glow. The level of detail here is just incredible. Okay, so the main hall, it was paneled with juniper wood, which would have been beautiful and smelled amazing. But here's the thing, you wouldn't even see the wood, because it was completely covered in fine gold. And not just any gold, but something called gold of Parvaim, which was apparently the purest stuff you could get. And if that wasn't enough, it was also decked out with precious stones and these intricate carvings of palm trees, chains, and angelic beings called cherubim. And let's be super clear here, we are not talking about a few gold accents here and there, no. We're talking about everything. The ceiling beams, the door frames, the walls, the doors, every single surface was covered in pure gold. Just try to picture that, walking into a room where everything, literally everything, is gleaming. Okay, now we're gonna go even deeper. We're heading into the inner sanctum, the absolute heart of the temple. This was called the most holy place. And listen, if you thought the main hall sounded fancy, what they did in here, it's on a whole other level. Get ready for this number, 600 talents of fine gold. That's how much they used just to cover this one room. A talent was a huge unit of weight back then. In today's money, we're talking hundreds of millions, maybe even billions of dollars, all for a single room. It's just mind-boggling. And the obsession with detail is just staggering. They even kept track of the gold nails used to put it all together, 50 shekels worth. That's over a pound of gold, just for the nails. It's clear that no expense was spared, right down to the tiniest, most hidden parts. So what's in this incredibly expensive golden room? Well, guarding the space are two gigantic, sculpted cherubim. Think of them as symbolic angelic beings. And their most important feature? Their absolutely enormous wings. And this is so cool. This is how they filled the entire room. Their combined wingspan was 20 cubits, which was the exact width of the most holy place. So one wing from the first cherub would touch one wall, and one wing from the second cherub would touch the opposite wall. Then their other wings would meet right in the middle of the room, touching tip to tip. It creates this unbelievable image of a protective golden canopy stretching clear across the space.
And hiding this whole incredible golden scene was a huge curtain. It wasn't just any old fabric either. It was made of fine linen and dyed in these super rich, symbolic colors: blue, purple, and crimson. You know, the colors of royalty and divinity. And woven right into the curtain, you guessed it, more cherubim, echoing the golden statues they were concealing.
All right, for the grand finale of our little tour, let's step back outside. Because standing guard at the entrance to this whole gilded masterpiece were two absolutely monumental pillars. And these things were works of art all by themselves. I mean, these pillars were enormous. The text says they were 35 cubits high. To put that in perspective, that's over 50 feet tall. And then, on top of each one, you had this decorative cap that added another 7 or 8 feet. Can you imagine walking up to the temple and seeing these things towering over you? It would have been an absolutely awesome sight. And of course, the tops weren't just plain blocks of stone. Nope, they were decorated with these really intricate, interwoven chains, and hanging from those chains were 100 pomegranates, a classic symbol of richness and fertility. It's that same theme again, right? Immense scale combined with incredibly delicate detail. And this part is really important. These weren't just some nameless columns. They actually had names. The one on the south side was called Jachin, and the one on the north was Boaz. They were like these iconic named guards standing watch over the entrance to the temple. This one quote really just sums up the whole project, doesn't it? The temple was basically an exercise in decoration, a total showcase for precious stones and this very specific top-tier gold from a place called Parvaim. And that really is the key takeaway from this ancient blueprint. Solomon's temple was this amazing fusion of two huge ideas. First, a deep, sacred purpose. And second, expressing that purpose through absolutely breathtaking scale and a display of wealth that is just almost beyond belief. Which, of course, leaves us with one last big question to think about. When a whole society pours this much artistry, this much wealth, and this much pure human effort into one single building, what does all that incredible splendor really tell us about what those people valued more than anything else?